Picture this. You have 10 hungry friends over, the steaks are halfway done, and the flame dies. You are out of gas. I learned this the hard way last summer, standing in the hardware store the next day, staring at rows of identical grills. The choice between propane and natural gas felt like a trap. Pick wrong, and you waste hundreds of dollars. Let me explain exactly how these two stack up, where the hidden costs lie, and which one actually makes sense for your backyard. The reality of installation and upfront costs. When you buy a propane grill, the upfront cost is beautifully simple. You pay for the grill itself, you buy a 20-pound tank, and you are done. You can build it on a Tuesday afternoon and be grilling by Tuesday evening. The barrier to entry is virtually zero. Natural gas is a completely different animal. The grills themselves often cost exactly the same as their propane counterparts, but the real expense hides in the installation. Unless your home builder was incredibly thoughtful and pre-installed a gas line to your back patio, you are going to need a licensed plumber. Running a new line involves tapping into your home supply, routing iron pipe through your basement or crawl space, drilling through the exterior wall, and installing a quick disconnect valve. If your patio is far from the house, or if they need to trench through concrete, that plumber bill can easily eclipse the cost of the grill itself. You might spend $500 on the grill and $1,000 on the pipe. You have to ask yourself if you plan on living in the house long enough to justify that kind of infrastructural investment. Fuel costs and long-term value. Now let us look down the road, because the financial script flips entirely once the grill is sitting on your deck. Propane is heavily commoditized, and you pay a premium for the convenience of the packaging. When you take your empty tank to a standard exchange cage, you are paying for the fuel, the tank maintenance, the delivery truck, and the retail markup. Over a busy summer of grilling, those $20 exchanges add up fast. Natural gas is astronomically cheaper on a per-cook basis. You are buying it at the bulk residential rate directly from your utility provider. We are talking pennies per hour of grilling. If you grill 3 or 4 times a week, a natural gas grill will eventually pay for its own expensive installation through fuel savings alone. But there is a catch. It takes years to hit that break-even point. You need to do the math on your actual grilling habits. If you only fire up the grates on major holidays, you will never recoup the cost of a plumber. If you treat your grill like a second kitchen all year round, natural gas becomes a brilliant financial move. Bottom line, propane is cheap today, but expensive forever. Natural gas is a tough pill to swallow today, but practically free to run for the next decade. The portability trap and yard layout. Your yard layout changes. You might want to build a new deck, put in a pool, or just move the seating area to get out of the afternoon sun. A propane grill gives you total geographical freedom. You can roll it to the driveway for a neighborhood block party. You can push it under an awning when it rains. When you eventually move to a new house, you just load it into the moving truck. A natural gas grill anchors you to one specific spot. It is tethered by a 10-foot flexible hose to a permanent pipe on your wall. That grill is never moving to the other side of the patio. If you decide to redesign your backyard, moving that gas line requires pulling permits and calling contractors all over again. You have to be absolutely certain about where you want to stand and cook for the next 10 years. Furthermore, if you are renting your home, natural gas is completely off the table. Landlords are not going to let you tap into their gas mains for a barbecue. Propane is the only logical choice for anyone who values flexibility or plans to relocate. Performance, heat output, and flavor. Let us address the biggest myth in the grilling world right now. Some purists will tell you that propane burns hotter and sears steaks better than natural gas. Scientifically, They are half right. Propane does contain more than double the energy per cubic foot compared to natural gas. It is a much denser fuel. However, grill manufacturers are not stupid. They know exactly how these fuels behave. When a company builds a natural gas version of a grill, they use different valves and larger orifices to allow more gas to flow through the burners. They equalize the playing field. A well-built natural gas grill will hit the exact same maximum temperature as its propane twin. You will not notice a single degree of difference when you are trying to put grill marks on a ribeye. As for flavor, both fuels burn incredibly clean. Neither one imparts a distinct taste to your food. The flavor of gas grilling comes from the drippings vaporizing on the hot metal shields below the grates, not from the gas itself. So do not base your decision on heat or taste. Focus entirely on the logistics of how you want to manage your fuel. The reality of running out and fuel management. You are managing a shrinking resource, and you never really know exactly how much you have left. Sure, some tanks have gauges, but they are notoriously unreliable. Most of us just lift the tank, give it a shake, and guess. This leads to the inevitable mid-cook flameout. You are forced to abandon your food, drive to the store, and hope they have full tanks in the cage. The only way to prevent this is to buy a second backup tank and keep it full in the garage. That means more money up front and more clutter. Natural gas eliminates this anxiety entirely. You turn the dial and it lights. Every single time, you could run a natural gas grill for 24 hours straight to slow roast a pork shoulder and never sweat the fuel level. That peace of mind is genuinely hard to put a price on. Once you get used to an infinite fuel supply, going back to hauling heavy steel cylinders feels like stepping back into the Stone Age. Environmental impact and clean burning metrics. Let us talk briefly about the environmental side because it does matter to a lot of buyers. Both of these fuels are fossil fuels. Neither is perfect, but they do have different footprints. Natural gas is primarily methane. It burns slightly cleaner than propane, producing fewer greenhouse gas emissions at the point of combustion. It also arrives at your house through underground pipes, which is an incredibly efficient distribution system. Propane, on the other hand, requires a massive logistical network. Heavy diesel trucks have to transport the gas to distribution centers and then deliver those individual tanks to retail stores. You then have to drive your car to the store to pick it up. The carbon footprint of moving the propane around is significantly higher than the footprint of the fuel itself. If you are trying to make the greenest choice possible for a gas grill, natural gas wins simply because it cuts out the entire trucking and packaging supply chain. Safety considerations and storage rules. Safety is another dividing line that people rarely consider. Propane is heavier than air. If you have a leak in your hose or the tank valve, the gas will sink and pool on the ground or inside the cabinet of your grill. If a spark hits that pooled gas, you have a serious problem. You also have to deal with the strict rules of storing propane. You can never store a propane tank indoors or in an attached garage. The pressure inside those tanks fluctuates with the weather, and the pressure relief valve can vent gas on a really hot day. Natural gas behaves differently. It is lighter than air. If you have a leak, the gas dissipates upward into the atmosphere almost immediately. It is generally considered safer for residential outdoor use for this reason. Plus, you completely eliminate the hazard of driving around with a pressurized cylinder of flammable gas in the trunk of your car. Weather dependability and cold climates. Propane sits in its tank as a liquid and has to boil into a gas before it travels up the hose to your burners. This boiling process requires heat from the surrounding air. If you are trying to grill in the dead of winter, A nearly empty propane tank can actually freeze up and stop producing gas entirely. The pressure drops significantly when the temperature plummets. Natural gas does not care about the weather. It is delivered in a constant gaseous state from below the frost line. If you plan on standing in the snow in January to grill up a batch of hot dogs, natural gas will give you a much more consistent, reliable flame without any pressure drops. It makes year-round grilling an actual reality rather than a frustrating battle with thermodynamics. Making the final decision. If you want the path of least resistance today, buy propane. It is easy, it is portable, and it requires zero commitment. You can buy the grill on a whim and cook tonight, but you are signing a contract to become a part-time tank hauler for the life of the grill. If you own your home, plan to stay there for a while, and have the budget for a plumber, natural gas is the superior experience. Yes, the initial setup is a headache. Yes, it will cost you more upfront, but it transforms your grill from a freestanding appliance into a permanent extension of your home. You will never weigh a tank again. You will never run out of fuel mid-cook. And your wallet will thank you every time you fire it up. Stop agonizing over the spec sheets and look at your patio. If you can stomach the plumber bill, make the permanent upgrade. If you want the freedom to move, stick with the tanks. Make the call that fits your life and get back to cooking.